Welcome to the RavensSpace on YouTube. My name is Jason, and this is RavensSpace Daily, where we talk about Baltimore Ravens news every single weekday. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. We're going to hop right into some great news stories that we have, but first I want to say please subscribe to the RavensSpace on YouTube if you're not yet subscribed. Also, a special shout out to our Patreon subscribers, because without you guys, none of this is possible. Thank you guys so much for all your help. Now we're going to hop right into the first news story of the day, and it talks about Austin Howard and some details on the contract. Last time we were on the video, we reported that Austin Howard was in talks to sign a contract, but however, this contract is now a real thing. It is done. 3-year, $16 million contract. To be specific, 5.3 per year over 3 years. Again, this is a contract. This is a classic Ozzie contract. You get a player that it's high value. Now they did pay him a lot, right? That's not, $5 million is not nothing to balk at. Before Tackle could come in and start day one, it'll be awesome. Now he has not been to practice yet because he has not been cleared by the training staff, which is something, the doctors haven't cleared him yet. So that's something to be afraid of. But I do think that he'll be a great addition to the Ravens. The Raiders last year were one of the best offensive lines in the game, in my opinion, second only to the Cowboys, and we know how good they were last year. So for him to come and take some of that talent and some of that high bar and put over on the Ravens is going to be awesome. Him next to Marshall Yonder should be a great run setting up side of the football. I mean, both of them were very good in the run game last year, and I don't think this will be any different. I think that the Ravens run game just improved a lot by putting him there at that right tackle position. So I'm super excited to see how that works out. Now, a couple people said James Hurst has a chance. Not in my opinion. James is done. James will go back to the backup role. It's tough for him because I know he did want to start, and a lot of people have been saying he's been getting better, but this was the right move for the Ravens if they want to be a contender in the AFC North. And let me know how you guys feel about the Austin Howard deal. 3 years, $16 million. Do you think it's a good deal? Are you excited to have him? Or do you think we should just went with Hurst? Let me know. Now, the next story of the day talks about Crockett Gillmore. And the Crockett Gillmore was released, but the Ravens have brought him back on injured reserve. It's some weird rule. I don't know the rule in particular, but the Ravens had to release him in order to put him on IR. And so what happens is that a team, in order to put a player on IR, has to release them and then re-sign them. And this is why, like, a lot of players, like for example, Tavon Young and Kenneth Dixon, who we know will not be able to play for the whole season, have been put on the PUP list and not on IR, because in order to do that, you have to release them and they have to make it through waivers. And if you release Kenneth Dixon, another team's going to pick him up. If you release Tavon Young, another team's going to pick him up. But they didn't have that fear with Crockett Gillmore. No one picked him up, so the Ravens were able to take him and put him on the injured reserve. This is a good inning for all involved. Crockett, got lucky that, the Ravens picked him up because, as you saw, no other team wanted him from waivers. And so he'd have just been out in the ether until he healed up and had to perform, for everybody. Good news for the Ravens because they still have a chance to have a good tight end. There is something in Crockett Gillmore. It's wrapped up in all the injuries, but there's a talented tight end there. And if the Ravens can get him to stay healthy, they can have big upside. They know that. So it worked out good for everybody. I'm super happy that Crockett is still a Baltimore Raven and that hopefully he has a chance to perform and play in the future and show everyone how good he really is. And you guys let me know how you feel. I know a lot of you guys are fans of the Crockett Rocket. So again, please let me know in the comments below. And now we're going to move on to the third story, and it's finally time to put this story to bed. A lot of you guys are saying thank God. I know a lot of people did want him back. In my opinion, he's the best wide receiver Joe Flacco has ever had. But Anquan Boldin is signing with the Bills, not the Baltimore Ravens. And so now it's time to put the story to bed. The Bills and the Ravens, from what I heard, were the last two teams. I do think that with the performances of Tim White and, I'm going to mess the name up, Quincy Adobijo, again, probably messed the name up, but with their performances, I think the Ravens feel confident that the young players can provide something that Anquan Boldin could not. And so they're happy with going with them. Again, and I wouldn't blame them, right? You have two players that were undrafted free agents that are showing out, performing, doing crazy stuff in practice, dominating the corners. It's just some good stuff to see. And you always bet on the young players, especially in football, most times if they show that potential and that promise. because you always want to have the next best thing. Again, in some positions, you like the old reliable veteran like a quarterback because it's so hard to find one. But at receiver, when you can have a chance to have youth and playmaker ability, you go for that, I think, over an older wide receiver. So that's what the Ravens did. Let me know if you guys think they made a mistake. Do you think we should have got Anquan Boldin? Please let me know in the comments below. And at the end of today's video, we have a mailbag question from you guys, the RavensSpace community. So if you want to ask a question, please send your questions to TheRavensSpace@gmail.com. It is in the description, so you can check it out there. And this question comes from a very special person, a Patreon subscriber named Cakes Mitchell. Thank you so much, Cakes. We truly do appreciate it. And Cakes' question is, many Ravens players aren't great fantasy players, but if you had to put any Raven on your fantasy team, who was the best selection? Thank you so much, Cakes. Again, Cakes has a great channel on YouTube as well where he talks about hip hop. If you guys love hip hop music, please check it out. I have a secret, and I'm playing against you guys this year in fantasy football. For everyone who signed up, thank you. You guys are awesome. I'm playing against you guys, and I have a strategy, and I'm going to reveal my strategy to you guys in order to answer Cakes' question. And what I'll say is this: there's one player on the Ravens in my head is a must get. And he was going to player who I was going to try to get in maybe a later round, sneak it out, is Danny Woodhead. Danny Woodhead is going to be the best fantasy player for the Baltimore Ravens, simply because if you play in a PPR league, he will hog all the running back catches. He was better than Kenneth Dixon at being a receiving back. He's better by far than Terrence West at being a receiving back. And so he will get a bounty of receptions. So if you play in a PPR league, point per reception league, you go get him. And even if you don't play in that type of league, I really do believe that he will split carries with Terrence West, but he will get a whole bunch of yards from his receiving yards. And because of that, he'll get a lot of receiving touchdowns as well as rushing touchdowns. I think he is the best Baltimore Ravens fantasy option by far. The second, if you play in a PPR league, is Jeremy Maclin. I think he's going to have a great year. And then you always go quarterback. If Joe Flacco has a clean season, doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, he'll be a top fantasy contender too. He doesn't necessarily have to throw more touchdowns, but if he just lowers his interceptions, he'll be a good choice for a person looking for a second quarterback or a backup quarterback in their leagues. So that's my answer to the question. I go Danny Woodhead first, Jeremy Maclin second. Those two are going to hog a lot of balls. I really do think so, especially Danny Woodhead from the running back position, because Joe Flacco is not afraid to check the ball down. And that is the end of the episode for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, please subscribe to RavensSpace on YouTube if you're not yet subscribed for more great Baltimore Ravens content. Also, if you're not a Patreon member, again, please check it out. You guys can help us make more great content for only $1 a day. And no pressure, just letting you guys know. Thank you guys so much. If you are a Patreon, special shout out to Sheila Henry, who's the newest Patreon subscriber. Thank you so much. And lastly, I want to say check out RavensSpace.com for great articles. We had an article go live today. It's a great one. Check it out. Thank you guys so much, and go Ravens.